I'd like to welcome everybody back to another episode of Gamewreckers and Slobberknockers. Today with us is Coach Joel Derge from Tip City. Welcome, Coach.
Hey, it's good to be here.
Hey, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of where you've been, played, and coached, and any systems that you felt like have had a huge impact on your coaching.
Where I've been is just two places. My alma mater, where I played Green and high school football back in the day. Had the opportunity to win three titles there as a sophomore, junior, and senior. And then I hopped on coaching. I know you had Derge on this show, but I hopped on coaching when I was 18 and a half into middle school football at Green. And then I stayed there for 5 years during my undergrad, where I worked on my phys ed license and all that good stuff. And then when I got out of college and things like that, I was still looking for a job and went back, got my master's as an intervention specialist. And I landed a job here at Tip City in 2013 and haven't looked back. When I came here in 2013, I was the defensive coordinator for Charlie Burbacher, and then the offensive coordinator stepped down. That's after that season, so I switched over and was the offensive coordinator the next year. And then moving forward after that, Charlie resigned as the head coach, so I took over the program for 4 years as the head coach and coordinated both sides of the ball, and not at the same time, of course, but did a lot of work on special teams as well. And then, had two boys. And as you mentioned, on Saturday mornings, it's fun. I'm coaching 3-year-old soccer. You're going to see your son play college football. So we're different age groups, but it's been fun to transition as an assistant coach and work for Charlie back as an assistant and Matt Burbacher as the head coach. And those are the guys that have influenced me the most here at Tip. Charlie hired me on as a 22, 23-year-old defensive coordinator at a very important time of that time frame where, we had one of the best teams in school history. We went 12-1 my first year here as the D coordinator, and he put a lot of trust in a 23-year-old defensive coordinator, and it means that meant so much to me. And that's what I've been running as the 50 defense for at least 8 years. And before that time, I was at Greenan, and I had a lot of influences through Josh Wooten, Kevin Finch, and John Jewell. We ran the spread offense there in the 40 defense, but that was 9 seasons ago. But I still remember a lot from those guys, and they taught me how to get after it. So it's been fun.
Well, that's kind of what's been cool to hear from some of the stories is the number of younger guys who are getting shots. And I can tell you, coaching against you for a couple of those years, that we always knew we had to bring our stuff because we knew your kids were going to get prepared, and they knew what was going to go on. Now, when you started, was Tip City still in the CBC?
Yeah, in 13 we were in the CBC, and then 14 we were as well. And in my first year as the head coach, we were still in the CBC. That was our final year, and we went 9-1 that year. But that jump to the GWalk was no joke, and and obviously now it's the NBL. But it's been a challenge, and our kids, I think, for the most part, stepped up to it.
Yeah, and I agree. A lot of people said, "What is Tip City doing?" They're one of the best programs in that. Everybody calls it a smaller school division, and it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's mainly 3s, 4s, and 5s, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Tecumseh's the outliers, the 2, but
yeah,
but then you jumped into a league that was all 1s and 2s.
Mm-hmm.
And for your kids, for people that don't understand, Division I's the largest school in Ohio. Those guys usually have 600 or more boys in them, and then 4, it works its way down. We have 7 total divisions here in Ohio, but you guys were playing all those schools, and then you jumped up to where you're playing schools that are 2-3 times your size, and your kids were battling. And I thought you guys were competing real well. I'm like, hey, you give them a chance. Tip's going to have a chance because those kids play hard.
Mm-hmm.
And from what we saw as opposing coaches, you were really well coached. So I'm glad you stuck around. And I will tell you this about your boys: don't miss a time. I was coaching track, and now my youngest is a senior, and I got to coach him. I was on the staff while he was coaching, while he was playing here at Xenia. But now I'm the head boys lacrosse coach, and I really got into it because he said, "Dad, you coached Peyton in track. Why won't you coach me in lacrosse now that he's gone? And I'm like, well, okay, I guess. And, you know, I'm learning lacrosse as I go, and it's fun, but don't miss time with your kids, because I don't care what it is. You won't regret. There's never a time that I've regretted, like, oh, man, I did this. I went and spent time watching them do this, and I didn't go to I didn't go do this for football or whatever. But absolutely take time with those boys.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot, and I definitely respect the people saying that for sure.
And you know what's funny is having boys is different, because the boys can hang out with you at practice more. They can walk through the locker room. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing, because things they repeat from the locker room, you got to make sure mom, like, hey, we don't say stuff we heard in the locker room, especially around mom. Mom gets a little fired up when we hear the stories about being in the locker room. All right, Coach. Now you said you were, and I even assumed you were more of an offensive guy, because I forgot that first year you were there at Tip that you were the DC. Mm-hmm. So, you have spent a lot of time as a defensive coordinator, and we're going to talk a little bit about your bend, don't break defense. So, Coach, you want to go ahead and share your screen here for the viewers, and we'll sit here and talk a little bit about your bend, don't break.
All righty. Go ahead with your question, or you just want me to go?
Yeah, just go ahead and go.
Okay. This is basically an off-season study we did last season during the pandemic and things like that. Like we mentioned and talked about, I've been coaching the bend, don't break defense for 8 years. We call the 50, we call it a 50. Some teams might call it a 3-4. But we really stride ourselves on giving up 4-yard plays here and there, a hitch here and there, and making you guys listening to this podcast know what a bend, don't break defense is. But this film wasn't intentionally for this podcast or anything. It was more for our kids to sell to them, what the bend, don't break philosophy is and things like that. And a lot of this is more, I guess, defensive back wise, because we want to teach not just defensive backs, but outside linebackers and stuff like that. We want to teach the guys and show them film of, what bend, don't break looks like. So I stole this from Rutgers. The bend, don't break philosophy for all the coaches watching this is they know that, you want to give up short gains, but don't give up big gains. The thing there on the right you see is, the big one for me is, hopefully they're starting on the 20-yard line, because that's, what you want on a kickoff or whatnot.
Well, yeah, because you guys have had a kicker for the past couple of years that, like, we could have kicked it from the 20 and he's going to put it in the end zone.
That's been, we're going to state's championship in soccer the last 2 years has definitely blessed the football program. And heck, the 8 years I've been here, the first year I was here, we had a kicker that kicked 77 straight extra points. And I think that's in the record books for Ohio. But
right.
And since then, it's just been rolling. Those guys have done awesome. But, statistically, obviously this is the college game, but, it translates to the high school as well. As, they start 80 yards away, they have a 13% chance to score. And I'm big on statistics. I love teaching math and all that fun stuff. Also if they're 80 yards away, Charlie says this all the time. They have 16 white stripes to go. Right. Yeah, there's first and 10, there's second and 8, there's third and 3, and all that good stuff. But they have 16 white stripes they got to go. So through these plays, and this is what I sent to the boys, I guess in April or so. Through these plays, you'll see a common theme where we're forcing the ball underneath in pattern match zones, which requires the offense to be patient, of course, and go the length of the field. We never ask our kids, we never ask one player to cover two of their players. For you guys, obviously you understand that, if they have a 4 vertical threat, we don't want to be in cover 3 if possible. But all DB coaches drill that. They all have drills in case that were to happen, but we don't want to put our kids in that situation. And then at times you'll see in some of these clips where we have 2 guys covering one of theirs, or maybe even a one, you'll understand when I show the film, but 1.5 of the guys covering one of their guys, but never ever ever is one guy covering 2. And obviously that's the philosophy of the bend, don't break. So there's a better picture of that for those watching. Even if they're at the 40-yard line, there's a 40% chance they'll score points, a 20% chance they'll score a touchdown. So field position is certainly big. All right, so what I'll do is I'll start with this one here, we're going to watch this corner up top. And this is what we show our kids. Perfect cover 2, palms, what we want. Now we're playing a team from Northmont that's pretty darn good. And this quarterback, of course, led our league in passing that year. But what you notice here, and I'm not going to get super in depth into DB play because this is more about the philosophy, but this kid does a really good job of angle dropping. And when the ball is getting ready to be thrown, he does a great job of being on the outside leverage of the fade route so the safety can help over the top. And when it actually leaves his fingertips, the corner is still, outside leverage. And we have 2 kids, of course, covering their 1. 2 kids covering their 1. He does a really good job of staying in phase. And as I slow-mo it, you see at the end of the day, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And it's an incomplete pass.
Hey, Coach, I think that clip right there shows a lot of why I think these bend, don't break principles work, because high school quarterbacks it takes a hard one to find one that's very patient.
Mm-hmm.
And like, if you look, we can all see it now that it's, slowed down. That out route is open, but he doesn't want to throw the 5-yard out. He wants to go for the big one over top. So right. I think that's a great philosophy to have, this bend, don't break thing, because high school quarterbacks and their patience sometimes are not very good.
Yeah, and this kid was really, really good. And, of course, we'll see some film of some other kids that weren't. But the very next clip, what does their offensive coordinator do? He does a really good job. He calls the same exact play. Now,
tells him throw the out.
Yeah, he screams at him, throw the out. Now, we want our kids, in theory, to be 5-by-1 outside. But what is this kid? He's like 8 yards off. Why? Those kids are athletic. The kid across from him is pretty good. So we don't teach him to be that deep. But what you see here is they call the very next play, and he tells him to throw the out. Now, when the ball is thrown, and it's hard to see, but there's the ball. When the ball is thrown, the corner's still on top of the fade. He's got his foot in the ground doing a great job of T-stepping, and I won't get into too much technique, but does a great job. The safety's getting the same read. And when the ball is thrown, that's, I would suggest to all coaches, whenever you're starting a drill defensively, do it with a ball being thrown, because once the ball is thrown, that's the breaking point. And that corner does a great job of breaking off on it, getting them on the ground, and at the end of the day, that's a 3-yard gain. And we're forcing them to snap the ball again. It's 3rd and 7, and I don't think they're converted. But here's another view of it. Again, these are just teaching points for our kids. Now this corner is same coverage, by the way. He's just getting the bubble. We get a lot of bubbles because, of course, we force the underneath route. But let's all watch number 20 down here. He doesn't do a good job of, again, technique. I'm not going to get into too much, but doesn't even backpedal, which we don't want. But at the end of the day, he gets the guy on the ground for a 0-yard gain. That's all good and stuff. But the very next play, what does their offensive coordinator try to do?
Bubble and go.
They try to go bubble and go. And again, the kid does not do a good job of technique. He shuffles forward for some reason. But when the ball leaves his fingertips, there's the ball leaving fingertips. The bubble is open. I think we can all agree on that. He's not on top like the other corner was in the other film. But at the end of the day, as I go slow-mo, he gets a hand on that football. He doesn't catch it. But, we and all teams need to find corners that can do both of those two things. And at the end of the last clip here of that game, this is the last play of the game, where now they're going the other way, of course, and we're looking at that corner up top. It's third and 10, and he sees the number 2 breaking out, and he breaks on the football and picks it off for the win. And you can see how excited our guys are because it's so important to start the season 1-0.
Absolutely.
But those are good plays of cover 2 read, where we'll give the underneath up as long as it's not a 7-8 yard gain. But here's a bad one. This was 2019. This kid right here is lined up at tight end. His number is 55. Okay, we know that he in high school rules here in Ohio can't catch the football. Coaches all know that. So as I go to the end zone camera, here's our safety. his read is number 2, but there isn't a number 2. The number 55 can't be number 2. And even if he was a tight end, they say he was 85. What's he doing? He's pass blocking. So it should be a very easy read for that safety. And again, this was for our kids to get your butt over there. And then the corner does a man turn on him. He doesn't force him to the inside, and a perfectly thrown ball will beat that. And we were able to use that as a teaching point for our kids, because we can't give up the big gains. And feel free to stop me anytime, because I love to talk. And
I'm sitting here taking notes, Coach.
Yeah.
It's a clinic for me.
Cool. Okay, so we get a lot of bubble screens, of course. Now we're in cover 3. So if you're going to do a lot of this bend don't break stuff, you got to work your open field tackling. That's a whole other discussion. But our DBs have to be able to tackle in space. Our outside linebackers have to be able to tackle in space. I know you guys run a very similar defense, but here's the bubble screen. It's getting thrown out there. So we work a lot of drills where we have a defensive end coming down the line of scrimmage, and I use those terms interchangeably: defensive end, outside linebacker.
It's all the same. It just depends on what day of the week it is.
Yeah, Charlie will yell at me and say they're ends, and then Fenwick will say they're outside backers, and I don't know what you'll say, but
I'll say yes. Yes.
We get bubble screens a lot, and we just got to get the guy on the ground.
Now, Coach, the better, you have had some really good players. Is the better your corner is, are you less likely to see the bubble because he can come up and take that away so quickly?
Yeah, I think that most teams, coaching offense helps a lot too. I've coached quarterbacks, and if you can get 5 yards, you try to take it.
Right.
We'll see, and coming up here, we'll see just that receiver block, and we'll see that receiver run a slant. So I think if I were coaching offense and this corner's a really good tackler, then I'd probably just run a slant to make him cover, versus trying to block him and make him tackle. I think that the better the corner is at tackling, the better you can be. I think we put our best tacklers probably at safety, but just staring at this and remember back to 2016, this kid started the year at safety, and we moved him to corner. So it's tough because we don't recruit our kids, and
right. We're not Ohio State or Alabama. We don't go get to pick the kids. We got whoever's walking in our halls.
Right. So it's year to year what you can and can't do. Right here, this is it's play 15, so it's got to be the opening drive if my memory's right. But going in the game plan is if they give us 2x2, we were probably going to be too high, and that is number one, bend don't break, of course, because again, we don't want this kid to be in the middle of the field and maybe this kid to be down and force this kid to cover 2 if possible. So right. Early in the game, you can see this was the game plan. And what are they going to do? They try to get us to jump off sides. They look to the sideline, and we all know what they're going to do. They're going to throw a bubble. But it's important you teach your kids. They're going to throw a bubble when they check to the sideline. So be ready for it. And I think this is a pretty good reaction. And it all goes back to they have to snap the ball. The quarterback has to catch the ball. Quarterback has to turn to his weaker side. He's got to put the ball on the upfield shoulder. I'm counting to 4 now. This ball is caught, 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage. On paper and in a clinic, I guess this is a clinic, but that bubble should get 7 yards, but it's not a perfect world. That ball is thrown a little bit low, and this safety right here, I think he's playing at Finley now. He has a pretty good reaction to come down and put this guy on the ground for a 2-yard gain. If we can stay too high and drop bubble screens for a 2-yard gain, we want to stay that way.
Coach,
but if we can't, we got to make an adjustment.
Coach, how do you deal with a team that's going to go 3-by-1 against you with your philosophy of bend don't break?
I think the first thing you want to do if they go 3-by-1 is you want to look at that isolated receiver. Is he a stud? Do we need to bracket him at all? If he's average, or maybe they don't even. Some teams I've played always have that single receiver be the single receiver on the flip sides, of course.
Right.
Other teams, like, you stay on our bench and you go to their bench, and it is what it is, because we just want to go fast. But I think the first thing you got to evaluate is their single receiver a stud or not, and number 2, There's 3 different ways we'll try to play the loose trips, the 3x1
Right.
trips, to give them a different look. But, you always go into a game. I think every coach goes into a game with a base plan of what you're going to practice against trips. And then if they keep throwing bubble screens and our kids know this, our coaching staff knows this. So when it happens, the adjustment is fast. But, if they're getting 8 yards every bubble screen, then there's going to be a timeout called on the second or third one, and we're going to adjust. But, you go into the game saying, this kid is going to go play Division II football, and we like his ability to tackle in space. So they're not going to throw bubble screens for a bunch of yards on us.
Right.
That's the hope. So, again, going back to this, this is, again, a teaching tool for our kids. We're going to watch this corner up top. They've been throwing that bubble screen. Now it's play 19. They've been throwing that bubble screen on us, and they flare this back out. Now, what's this corner do? He takes steps up. And obviously he slips. Now, even if he doesn't slip, don't we all think he's going to go play that bubble, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and what we can't have is that. What we cannot have is that. And we have a lot less clips of that versus the good ones. We have a lot more good ones than bad ones. But, again, teaching tool for our kids is don't jump that bubble if they're not going to throw it every time. And we'll circle back to this game, and we actually win the game by not allowing that, if that makes sense.
Coach, now who is your corner reading? Is he reading number 2?
In this circumstance, yeah, he's reading 2 because number 3's in the backfield.
Right.
Now, at the end of the day, number 3 kind of becomes a number 3.
Right.
But the corner is always reading 2 to 1 if it's a 2x1 set or a 2 detached set. But if it's a trip set, then he will read 2 to 3. So yeah, he's reading 2. So I don't know what brings him up, other than they've thrown 2 bubble screens already.
The eye candy of number 2 running at him.
because number 2 in this circumstance runs a slant.
Right.
And that's kind of what I talked about earlier. If that corner's a really good tackler, make those guys run some routes so they cover him. But that kid that jumped that, for whatever reason, he's playing baseball at Ohio State, so he's a really good athlete.
Yeah, he can play.
Yeah, just made a bad decision there. All right, so let's go into what happens when they roll out. I think these are some really good clips for your viewers. When they roll out, again, we're playing cover 3 here. So deep third by the corner, curl flat by the safety. Our defensive end is on the line of scrimmage. So there's a guy running deep off the screen, which you can't see, but this guy's going to do the 10-yard out, and this tight end is going to block and then run his little arrow concept. Okay, if I pause it right there, this curl flat defender, what we want him to do is backpedal and defend the 10-yard out with the free safety coming over the top. And it should look like that. But and then this is kind of wide open. Now, again, the technique is terrible. He turns around. We're looking at this kid here. He gets turned around. I don't know why he spins. But what we do, if we pause it right here, what we want to say is this kid is covering half of the 10-yard out, and the other half of him is covering that. Because the defensive end linebacker are rushing for this play. And this kid is covering that kid, and this kid is covering that kid. So we have in this little square or rectangle, we have 1.5 guys covering their 1, going back to that slide I had at the beginning. So what's the quarterback going to do? He makes the right decision, comes up underneath. Again, this is a 2nd and 11, it says. And our philosophy is we want you to snap the ball again. We don't want you to – nobody wants anybody to score. But this kid's going to come up. Again, this is 7 yards, so at the end of the day, it's too much. It's too much. We can't allow that. Obviously, he gets turned around, and it's too much of a gain. But the very next play was, if you see this referee up here at the top, he's spotting it for a 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4. They didn't convert that 3rd and 3 or that 3rd and 4, and that's what we want. Here's a 3x1. So you see us defending at cover 3. Kind of ask that question again. We kind of look at that guy on the back, but they're going to run the same play. He's gonna roll out. And we want our curl flat defender defending the curl first, or the 10-yard out-ish, and making them throw the flat. There's the flat. It's open. Again, too much for the purposes of this, but this is the best clips I could find to help our kids learn it. Too much, it's an 8-yard gain. Again, the same kid comes up, makes the tackle. So it became a 3rd and 4. They ran the ball. They became a 4th and 2, and they fumbled the snap. So we got the stop, even though there was an 8-yard gain there on the 2nd and 12. And that's kind of what we try to teach our kids. And then this is just the end zone view of this game, because the side, as you can see how sunny it was. This is the bad clip of it. So same concept, different team. What you'll see here is here's the curl flat defender, a different team, a different year, same defense. The curl flat defender is doing what? He's running to the flat along with the outside linebacker. They're both going to defend the flat. So what's the quarterback going to do? He's going to throw the 10-yard out. And that is a 23-yard gain versus the 8 or the 7 that you saw on the other clips. And so we have 2 guys covering the flat, 0 guys covering the 10-yard out. We can talk about this kid being late as well, but nobody wants 23-yard gains, so not good.
No, not at all. That is a explosive play. Can't have too many of those in the game.
Nope. So then the next kind of concept we want to teach our kids is slant arrow. We get a lot of those. I guess we got one more rollout. Sorry. One more rollout. You can see that this is now our outside linebacker playing the curl flat. He's doing the same thing as what you saw the safety doing. He does a little bit better of a job of being in between this and that. And the safety needs to come down and rob this thing. But he's in between just enough for this ball to be thrown just a little bit high and dropped. You know, again, is the flat open? Yeah, but it is 1st and 10. Is the flat open? Yes, but you mentioned, and every defensive coach knows that they don't throw that very often.
Nope, not unless the coach yells at them, throw me out.
Absolutely. All right, here's another rollout, different concept now. I think this is the epitome of them all, right? Okay, it's 3rd and 4, and they're running hitch corner. That's 3rd and 4, and they're running hitch corner. We can all agree that if he throws this ball to number 5, it is a 1st down.
It is a 1st down.
And can we agree that we have 3 guys covering this guy?
Yeah, let me throw that ball.
Yeah, so he ends up not throwing that and takes off and run and becomes short. But again, it's a teaching tool to our kids. Hey, the quarterback ain't going to throw this every time. And that was a very good quarterback. I know that his coaches are going to watch this, and he might watch this, and I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody, of course. But he's a very good runner. He makes a decision to run. It just didn't work out for him on that play. But you see what forcing the flat can be. So I got a ton of these. I'm going to skip through a few, especially West Carrollton, because I don't want coach to get after us. I'm just kidding. But those are actually 80-yard plays. So for the purpose of this, I want that one. For the purpose of this clinic, we want to see good ones. So the concept, we talked about rolling out. Now the concept is going to be slant and an arrow. Okay, and the key point here is, what should this kid do? He should sink underneath the slant and be underneath the slant when the ball is thrown, and then react to that, just like that flood concept you saw earlier. So when the quarterback hits the back of his drop, can he throw the slant? I don't think so, because this kid's in the window. Yes, he's breaking on the out. Probably, let me rewind it just a little bit. Can he throw the slant here? Not really, because this kid's sitting underneath it. So he is going to choose the out. And again, another talented quarterback, but high school, thrown from the left hash all the way out to the numbers there, under some duress. The quarterback's just not going to be 100% on those.
Coach, how much do you teach those guys to read the front shoulder of the quarterback?
A lot. I mean, you talking about the DBs?
The DBs, your outside linebacker there. Because I think, I even teach my inside linebackers. Like, read that front shoulder of that quarterback, because if he's going to throw the slant, it's going to be where the slant route is. But if he has already checked off of it and he's throwing the arrow, you're going to see more the back of his jersey. You're going to see that he's throwing the out, and it'll help you jump the out route on that and help the break.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely learned something there. I teach more about the fingertips and when the ball is released. more than where the shoulders are pointed. So that's really good because
Like,
I know he's going to throw the arrow here, so I can see the back of his jersey a ton.
right, and especially if they're throwing the bubble. I told those guys, I said, you'll know whether it's bubble slant or bubble go, whether he's throwing the bubble. I said, because if you see the back of his jersey, run for the bubble because that's where that ball's going.
Absolutely.
I said, he's not John Elway. He's not going to do that and then flip his hips and automatically throw the backside fade. I said, that guy is not around anymore.
Yeah. And I think that to answer your question, the big thing that I do is don't break on it until it leaves his fingertips.
Yep.
Because we saw that second baseman going to Ohio State. He didn't do that, and it was a 37-yard touchdown. So, I do a drill in our tackling circuit. It's just a 2-on-1 tackle, and the two guys, stand next to me on my left and my right, and I throw the ball down there. I'm sure you've seen it. I throw the ball down there to one guy, and those two guys work together to go tackle him. But at the same time, I say you can't leave until the ball leaves my fingertips, and I pump fake just for the heck of it sometimes. Right. Don't leave until it leaves my fingertips. Don't leave, and as soon as it leaves my hand, then they sprint down there. It's like a 17-ish. We just work between the hashes and they run down there and they tackle the guy or whatever.
We do a drill similar, and it's kind of fun. We can talk about it. I know the drill you're exactly talking about.
Yeah, it's just a 2-on-1. We call it compression tackle. Yep. But again, I just kind of drill all this bend don't break stuff into it. Don't leave until it leaves my fingertips.
Right.
And okay, so then just continuing on that, we got a slant by the flanker here, and we got an arrow by the tight end. And I think we're in a nickel coverage here. So here's our nickel back, actually. But what's he going to do? The same thing. He's a curl flat defender, and he's sitting right underneath. It's 3rd and 6, so we can't allow that slant. He's sitting right underneath the slant. The tight end's running the arrow. The ball might get tipped there. I don't know, but the guy doesn't catch it. There are a lot of things have to happen right, especially in high school football, for them to get the snap, catch the snap, turn the shoulders, throw the ball accurately, catch the ball accurately, and get upfield, So
very much so.
Just a bunch of clips of them throwing the ball underneath and stuff like that. So, I'll kind of, going back to this Vandalia Butler game, remember them throwing the bubble on us on the first drive?
Yep.
Well, here they are. Play 145. I think they're down 7 points, and they need a drive to tie the game. And, they're throwing the running back flare, bubble, whatever you want to call it. And he's going out of bounds to conserve time. But that was an 8-yard gain. Again, too much, especially if it's not a 2-score game. The very next play, running the same play. Again, a lot has to happen for this to work out well. Again, this ball's thrown behind. So it allows us to take 2 or 3 extra more steps. He's going out of bounds to conserve time. We might have been up by 10, but that's not really the point. And you can just see them going back to it. But eventually, the offense coordinator is going to get impatient. The quarterback's going to get impatient, and they're going to fake the bubble, and they're going to try to throw the deep one. And again, this isn't the greatest camera work, but when that ball's in the air, the corner's on top of his guy, the safety's on top of his verticals, and this is actually the linebacker trying to run with it. So again, we're not going to ask that safety to try and cover those two guys. And at the end of the day, we won the game, went to the playoffs because, of bend don't break. We gave up a couple first downs on the bubble, but at the end of the day, our kids.
That's exactly what bend don't break is. Like, hey, we're gonna let you have a little, and then they just your guys didn't break. They had to play, and like you said, the OC got impatient, the quarterback got impatient, and he threw a ball where there was nobody really open.
Yeah. So I got a couple of drives and things like that where that I can show real quick, and I'm going to skip that one. But you can see they went down the field, and then they got down to the 2-yard line and went backwards. But this is kind of interesting. I know this clinic can't go forever, but I could talk all day. But we actually won this game. At the end of the day, we won this game. We had 37 points to their 12. But look at the stats. We gave up a lot of yards. And I think they turned it over 3 times for some reason. You guys know how huddle or the stat people do their jobs and things like they do a fabulous job, but that's not right. But
no, that right there is bend don't break at its finest. You
Yeah.
guys scored 37 points. They had almost 400 yards, and there were 12 points scored.
Yeah, and they scored. You know, they moved the ball a lot. It was really weird. This is one of the weirdest games I've ever coached in. But look how many rushing attempts they had and passing attempts they had. I said I
Holy
like
cow.
math. What is that? 78.
Yeah.
They had 78 plays to our 34. You know, it was a crazy game. But we there was a lot of toughness from our defense that night. We gave up 12 points. We had a pick six, and we had a deep special teams play that took the ball pretty deep in their territory. But other than that, you know, we gave up 400 yards of offense, and of course we use that to challenge our team the next week. But that's kind of a screenshot of that. But here's a good one I think we can go over. We're playing Franklin week 11 of the playoffs. This is 2016. They're running that running back flare that everybody loves to run on us, right? You've seen a few of those. And that kid's playing at Cincinnati, a pretty darn good player. But they get 14 yards. Again, I think we can all agree that's too much. But they're not going to run that every play. And I don't even think they went back to it very often. But, you know, we were really sold out on defending him in the run game, and did a pretty good job here of a 0-yard gain. And I'll go through these plays quickly. So we get down to the red zone. But here they are in a 2nd and 10. They're trying to throw a hitch. Again, we get a lot of hitches, a lot of bubbles, incomplete. 3rd and 10. Okay, they go 5 wide. We're sitting in cover 4. And they throw that again, left hash all the way out to the number. It worked out for him. You know, he caught it, and our corner's giving way too much cushion. Way too much cushion for my liking. The outside linebacker needs to get a little bit more width and things. And they do convert this for a 1st down, which, again, it's too much. But, you know, we've made them snap the ball again, right? They're snapping the ball again. They're going back to their run game on 1st down. That wasn't successful. 2nd and 11. We want to force the ball underneath when they throw. Here we are forcing the ball to the tight end underneath. The arrow concept, again, that's 8 yards. 7 yards, probably too much. But it's a 3rd and 3. And we've been, you know, this is the opening drive of the game. We've been pretty good against the run game so far. They go back to the run game on 3rd and 3. We make it bounce. It loses 2. And we get them into a 4th and 5. You know, we bent. Heck of a play call right here. Middle screen. They got us. They got us pretty good there. Shoestring tackle. Saves a touchdown probably. They're down in the red zone now. We're defending the run pretty good. Kind of, you know, probably a 2-yard gain there. They hit us for a penalty hitting the quarterback when he's carrying out a fake, but that's another story. You know, I think guys just bodies collided or whatever. So you see the gain of 10 there. Ball's now on the 10-yard line. So they're in the goal line area, and they go to pass, and it's a sack. Our guys are excited. 2nd and 15. 2nd and 15, they look to the sideline. Again, we'll give up the underneath stuff. And they throw a comeback over here. Again, too much. 11-yard gain on the 2nd and 15. But our DB doesn't allow the yards after catch. We got guys rallying to the football there. So it's a 3rd and 4. This is one of my favorite plays because, you know, I think if you've ever heard me talk about the red zone defense on any other podcast or anything like that, like as a head coach, one of our biggest goals every single week was win the red zone because that's where games are won and lost. Offensively score in the red zone, defensively give up a certain percentage of points in the red zone. But they're going to run. Again, they haven't been very successful in the run game. We've been dialed up on that, and they tried one there and didn't get it. But this is my favorite clip. I'll probably show it twice, but watch the white jerseys. I think this is a totally different conversation, but going back to preparation and watching film and what plays are they going to run on the 3-yard line and on the goal line, you know, our kids were really ready for this situation because we work on the red zone so much because we know we're going to be in the red zone because we've been. But look at the white jerseys. You know, there's a lot of guys flying to the ball there.
A lot of hats at the ball, Coach. That's for sure.
And I think that, you know, this was 4 or 5 years ago, but man, we knew what play was coming, and sometimes that doesn't matter because they execute it better than we defend it. But if you bend don't break, be prepared to be in a lot of red zone situations. And our kids,
and just have your kids ready.
yeah,
Have your kids ready.
have your, we gave up, I think, maybe 1 4th down conversion there, maybe 2. We gave up a 3rd and 10. We gave up 11 yards on a 2nd and 15. But here they are kicking a field goal, and that didn't work either. That was not a fake. That was a fumbled snap. And obviously they fumbled the ball there. So 0 points on the opening drive for a 10-0 team. We felt like that was pretty good. This drive, I'm gonna zoom out here and just quickly show the guys at home, because this is one of my favorite drives because it was a 24 play drive in 2018. The clip starts on play 75, but it's 6 2 4 7 5 6 1 4. 12 was the biggest gain they had as they matriculate down the field. 4 5 0 11 3 -2 -5 penalty. And so let me just kind of fast forward. Now it has played 93, so there's been 18 snaps.
Holy cow.
And it's crazy. It has been 18 snaps. It's 4th and 8 in the red zone. This is the situation we're built for. We're built for this situation. We're going to dial up a blitz, and somebody loses contain. Holy cow. Like, that's just so heartbreaking, right?
Right.
But let's just play the next play. We make them make another snap. They run up inside. The quarterback tries to pull it. Our DN's there. And this is sliced up with the end zone shots there too. They give it to the running back this time. He gets to the 1 yard line. Okay. We don't really have a goal line defense as far as, these 7 guys.
No special package, right? No specials. You're not bringing anybody in.
We do have one special package, but the ball's on the 5, and most people freak out like, oh, you got to get your goal line defense out there. We do have a special package, and I'll show you that next clip. But, we can blitz, or we can cover all 7 of those gaps with our 7 guys. We don't feel like we need a special package because if you need I kind of contradict myself. If you have to work on your special package 20% of practice, then you got a problem with your base defense and your red zone defense. So they get to the 1 yard line. That's when you'll see our special package. And there I was screaming it out. So down on the 1 yard line, we're going to give you a 6-2 versus a 5-2. We're going to play 2 nose guards. One's on one side of the center, one's on the other side of the center. But everybody does the exact same thing that they're supposed to do. And down around the red zone there's no time to bend anymore. It's time to blitz, And we did a perfect job of scouting that. They didn't execute blocking that. But we got our 2 nose guards here. Our tackles are still head up because we play a 50, right, or maybe in a 4-eye. And there's our defensive ends. So everybody's doing the exact same thing. We're not having to teach kids different techniques and things like that. We're just able to be in a 50, but have 2 nose guards. I mean, and so where's the one place we can blitz? Right through there. And we end up getting them. Fast forward to the next play, they take a timeout. They line up. They false start. 4th and 10. They're lined up for a field goal. And then I run out on the field and take a timeout. They made the field goal. I'm unhappy about something. They made the field goal. So it's 4th and 10. This is clip 100 now. It's been 25 plays, or 25 clips at least. And they're trying to throw a comeback over here to where we got 5 guys in the end zone. Now they're all not 5 in the picture. But, we got the outside leverage by the corner, the defensive ends underneath, the safeties over top. And we kind of show that clip of that as bend don't break. And that was another crazy game because, when you look back to the stats again, they had 74. Wow, that's the exact same number. They had 74 offensive plays to our 39. And
yeah, that is bend don't break for sure, Coach.
Yeah, I mean, it was a crazy, crazy game. And it was fun. But that was a senior night for those guys, and they ended up beating their rivals, and all was good. So that's what I got. I hope you learned something. Hope you guys watching the podcast learned something. And
Coach, that was awesome. That was really good stuff in there. And I can tell you, we've been to places where we've had to play bend don't break, and there's been times where you can do a little bit more. We got those corners that can man up on the outside, and you can play a little 9-on-9 football if you have those, but you got to have those guys to do it.
mm-hmm.
And like you said, we don't get to recruit our guys. We got who we got. So,
Mm-hmm.
All right, Coach. Well, it is called Gamewreckers and Slobberknockers. So let's hear, who's the best game wrecker you've ever coached?
One of the best game wreckers that I've ever coached was a nose guard at Greenon. He ended up going to Wittenberg. And we used him as the one technique most of the time, sometimes as the 3 technique. It was a 40 defense, but his name was Josh Bannock, and Derry actually played with him. So I know he'll remember that. He was the defensive player of the year on a 4-6 team, if that makes sense.
That's awesome. That means he's good.
He was a guy that everybody had to double team. In my 13 years of coaching, he's the only kid that we've ever said, like, hey, slow down against the scout team, if that makes sense. Or we literally had to script plays. We weren't that talented, if that makes sense. And nobody's scout team is better than your other team. But
right.
we literally had to, okay, if we're going to run a 3rd and 3 play against our scout, Bannock's got to come out for that play, because
otherwise he's going to blow it up, and you're not going to work that.
He's going to put Derry on his back, and we got to get Derry a break or whatever.
Right. Absolutely. Hey, I understand it. Everybody's got those kids too. So.
And then he went to Wittenberg, and their coaches, when I became a head coach, their coaches came back and said, I don't know how that kid came to Wittenberg, because he started as a freshman. I don't know his stats and everything, but
right.
They kind of personally told me that he should have been a Division I kid. And not that matters, but he enjoyed his time at Wittenberg, and he was a heck of a player.
Right. Great. All right, now, Coach, what's the biggest slobber knocker hit you've ever seen as a player or coach?
The biggest one I've ever seen was on a punt return. Now my internet's a little unstable. There it goes. I was on a punt return. That was before the blindside block days, where we had a return set up down our sideline, and we had 2 really good hits on it. But the third one was the linebacker coming up to clean the alley, and he just drilled this guy. And I don't want to say who, but right. it was right in front of me. So when you asked me that question, that's the first thing I think of, because I was the head coach, and it was my first game ever as head coach, actually.
Okay.
And so it'd been a while since I'd been on the sidelines. It was probably second quarter, and I just can hear that hit today. It was a big one.
Hey, back when we could do those things seem to happen a lot more than they definitely do today. All right, Coach. So we're ending up here, and I call the segment Bring in the House. 5 rapid-fire questions. You got to give me your initial response. And like I said, I was given a little help on some of these. So the best college tradition.
Best college tradition. I have never seen this, but I like the one that they talk about, Tennessee, where they come around the corner, and the people are just screaming and yelling. I like the Ohio State walk after the skull session, but we live in Ohio, so I know there's some great ones out there, but I've heard a lot of great things about that Tennessee turn around the corner when
it is. Hey, when they run through the tee, it does get awfully loud in Neyland Stadium. All right. Okay. Which is the better series, the Buck series or the Jet series?
Oh, come on, man. The Jet series. All you got to do is block the end and the corner, and you're going to get 7 yards. That's a great play, because we got another hour or what? We got it. Because that's the 7th grade level. At the 8th grade level, that's a very successful play for them. It's very inexpensive. You got to block the end. You got to block the corner. You're going to get 7 yards at that level. And those kids get confident running that stuff. So when they got up to me at the high school level, they already knew what to do, and we just enhanced it and tried to get better at it. But, I love the Buck series too, but it's very expensive.
Very. All right. Who's your favorite Buckeye football player of all time? You can pick one.
Favorite Buckeye of all time? Probably Andy Katzenmoyer back in my middle school days.
Okay.
Wrecking havoc. I looked up to him playing linebacker in my days, and
they unretired 45 for just him.
Yeah, and then the neck roll and all that good stuff. So,
Oh yeah, back when shoulder pads were like huge, like
yeah.
they were big. All right, steak or seafood?
Oh, for sure, steak. Gotta have some A1 sauce on there and things like that, but definitely steak.
All right, now I have been told that you are the best NCAA 14 football player of all time.
Yeah, for those of you guys that don't know, the NCAA football hasn't came out with a new game since 2014. Now, I've had some kids and things have happened, and I haven't played in a very long time, but I have not been beaten since the game came out.
No, I'm just telling you. Somebody told me to ask this question specifically. If you got to bet the mortgage on you and you have to win the game, are you going to play Coach Fenwick or Coach Derry?
Oh man, I've played Derry many times. So, and he'll tell you that I'll get up 14 on him and just start playing bend don't break defense, and he'll throw an interception. So, I used to play all the time with kids. I'd invite the seniors over to my house and we'd play, but I hadn't been beaten, and I haven't played in 3 or 4. I don't know how many years, but I hadn't been beaten for a very, very long time. But every single season, November would roll around, and I'd invite guys over to the house, and nobody ever beat me. And I just use that bend don't break defense, man. It's been awesome.
So you're going to play Coach Derry?
Yeah, I'm playing Coach Derry because I beat him many times. I don't
awesome.
know. Fenwick's not married. Well, neither is Derry. So they got more time on their hands. And I got kids, so I got to go with Derry.
Coach, this has been awesome. I appreciate you coming on here talking about bend don't break defense. Good luck to you this upcoming season. And I can't wait to see how well you guys turn out this year over there at TIP.
All righty. Thank you so much.
Guys, I appreciate you turning into another episode of Gamewreckers and Slobberknockers. Tune in next week when you'll hear another version of defense.